Good afternoon. I would like to call to order the Pasco County Commissioners Joint Cities Workshop of March 23, 2023. At this time, please silence all electronic devices. Please rise for the invocation and pledge.
O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Here.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
Present.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey. District 4, Commissioner Bradford. District 5, Chairman Mariano.
Here.
And also from the City of Newport Richey, Mayor Rob Marlowe.
Here, ma'am.
Deputy Mayor Mike Peters.
Here.
Councilman Peter Altman. Councilman Matt Murphy.
Here.
Councilwoman Kelly Mothershed. Here. Mayor, and from the City of Port Richey, Mayor Scott Tremblay.
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Tom Kinsella. Councilman Bill Colombo. Councilman Todd McElroy.
Here.
And Councilwoman Linda Rodriguez.
And you could let's acknowledge the administrators that are here as well.
I don't have that on my list,
Okay.
but yes, if you are from the City of Newport Richey, can you state your name for the record?
Debbie Mann.
Thank you.
No.
And,
Mike Carvalho, Pasco County.
Port Richey.
John Duke, Port Richey.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Port Richey, Newport Richey, for your support in the development of the new Public Safety Administration building for Pasco County. Your letters of support have been instrumental in garnering the necessary momentum and intention to address the critical needs for an updated and consolidated facility. I appreciate everybody coming in here today to talk about the different issues going on with the cities. It's always good to have these discussions. And at this point in time, I guess we can go to the first topic of discussion. And community issues, homeless initiatives. And Kathy Pearson will address.
Hello, can y'all hear me? Is this on? This on? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Hello, everyone. Boy, what a first topic to start off with. I'm Kathy Pearson, the Assistant County Administrator for Public Services. And we are going to talk a little bit about homelessness, and it's not a topic that we all like to talk about, but it's a very important topic that we really need to face. You know, with the increase of mental health illness and affordable housing, lack of affordable housing, we're seeing more and more of this in our county. And so I do have some experts in the county here, sitting in here, that we need to defer to if you've got questions. I know Dawn Anderson is here from the Pasco County Homeless Coalition. I've got my team, Paula Barricado, Support Services, Brian Hoban, Director of Community Services, and Kelly Funk has been with us on homeless issues and committees. So what we're hoping to talk to you a little bit about today is what we're seeing, some options about what we think we need to go, and hopefully receive some input from all of you. So we'll start with homeless by the numbers. So this is unofficial count, but right now we are seeing in Pasco County from the 2023 unofficial point in time count between 300 and 400 unsheltered individuals. 80% of the unsheltered count reside in the west side, so that was why it was important that we talked to you about, especially with the city west side leadership here. And it gives you the breakdown of the ages 20 to 40, 32, 40 to 55, 40, and 55 and plus as 28. And that's on the rise. Our seniors, we're seeing more seniors become homeless. Where is this happening? So currently, this is from our code enforcement officer, and I forgot to mention Patrick Garreton is here too, who's very much dealing with a lot of our homeless issues with code. And this is their numbers. They're currently seeing about 62 confirmed encampments. 18 camps are identified with 5 or more transient, and 2 encampments are identified with 10 plus. And most of them are on the west side of the county. Just wanted to show you what the Homeless Coalition does now in their housing and service system of care for homelessness. So they do have a coordinated access system. This is a little bit of what they do. They do a whole bunch more, but people can contact the access points. They are assessed. They have a couple of teams that go out called the Brigade, and they also have the Sword and Spoon that go out and assess our homeless. They triage them, and then they're placed on a list, and then people are matched with agencies having funding and housing and services matched with their available units. This is what community development has done, and community development is under the county, and right now, since 19, we put about 11.9 million our community development block grants, emergency solution grants, and our home investment funds. As you can see, some of that, about 269 goes to the Homeless Coalition for a software system that they use for all of the agencies, so we're not duplicating services and we can keep track of all the services they're receiving. About 2.34 million of emergency shelter in some of the big projects with that. We put an HVAC system in the Youth and Family Alternative building, which is our foster building, Sunrise Domestic, electric system, Steps to Recovery. We've done renovations for them. These are all services that are provided to help with our homeless. Emergency shelter construction, 1.77. This is the new one that's just opening up last week was the Felicity House. That's a single women's shelter on Majestic, and that is run by Catholic Charities. The Youth Lane, this is a building that the county owned, and we had turned that into a 9-family family shelter that is run by Catholic Charities. About 2.1 million is the Rosalie Randu residence. I'll show you a little bit more about that. That is I believe it's a 19-unit or 14 units for supportive housing. And then, of course, we do rental assistance. So that's some of the services that we have done through our community development department. Here again is some of the big projects, the Rosalie Randu residence. Again, that is funded by this, and then the building, the family shelter. Some of the current services that are provided, we just listed them all here. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them, but these are folks that are doing some wonderful service to help combat homelessness. And then we want to talk a little bit about the Housing First model. So National Alliance to End Homelessness supports the Housing First model. And what is that? Homeless assistance approach that prioritizes providing permanent housing, guided by the belief that people need basic necessities like food and shelter, and once established, the person will be provided with case management. So that's the whole key, is getting the person in a shelter and providing the case management and connecting of the resources. What are some of our challenges? So, talking with our sheriff, and Alex is here today too, is that we have some great services, but we're still lacking services. And one of them is a lack of a low barrier shelter. And what do we mean by low barrier? That is pretty much taking the person as there is. And so if they have their issues, we need to be able to take them in, get them the services they provide, and all that kind of resources that they need to become successful. We are lacking that. We also lack affordable housing. We have economic challenges, domestic violence, family issues, the chronic health conditions, substance abuse, mental illness is on the rise. Our Sheriff's Department has a great behavioral health. I know they're here representing today. They can share with you lots of stories that they're seeing out there. So we as a group, we've been meeting on a monthly basis, coming up with what does the county need to do. And it's not only just the county, this is a community issue. We need to get the buy-in from the community. And so we're hoping to take a lot of this and go out on the road, do town halls, talk with your constituents, and see what really is that we need to come together as a community to do. So these are alternative solutions. Nothing has been placed on them. Nothing is in stone. We have not gone out and purchased any of this. This is just alternatives we wanted to present and hopefully get your feedback. So, one, the group has visited, we've gone down to Pinellas Hope and we've gone down to Tampa Hope. And these are two facilities, villages, however you want to call them, that are run by Catholic Charities. And the great thing that they're doing, they do a combination of tents or canvas shelter with pallet homes. And these pallet homes are pretty cool. They're about 64,000 square feet. It costs approximately $15,000. They already come pre-electric, heating and air conditioning and all of that kind of good thing. So we're looking at maybe do we purchase some land, do we purchase a building and with some acreage and provide some of this? That's alternative number one. The pros and cons to it, the pros are individuals are all in one place. Now we don't have 60-something camps that we have to try to get case management on. We have them all in one place. It can be run by a non-for-profit. They can provide and do the case management and connect them with resources. It's proven to be a huge success down in Tampa and in Pinellas County. And it's staffed 24/7. It is a drug-free campus, but they will take people with those kind of issues and help them get rehabilitated. That's what they mean by low barrier. Option two, the county can look for land and just do a tent city. And again, have it run by a not-for-profit. Again, all in one location. The not-for-profit can serve a lot of people in one place to still provide the services that are needed. The third option, sort of an option I sort of personally like, is doing a pallet village of some kind. So the county department with a not-for-profit and actually have a village of just pallet homes. And what that could do, you could have these pallets, they come in all different sizes. You can purchase one that has bathrooms in it. You can do a congregate dining. So these are some of the options that we are presenting to all of you today. And the last thing is a congregate. So the county could look for a huge building, put them all in one building. Some of the factors of some of the things that aren't good about that is, they're all in one space. It's, keeping it clean. One person gets sick, all of that kind of good thing. Not sure I like that, but we bring it as an option. And then the last thing is, what are we missing? This is where you all come in. What do we need to do? What are we missing? We have to do something. We can't keep going with the 60-something camps. You talk to code, the camps are growing, more people are becoming homeless. I mean, let's face it, folks. I know personally we have people that are telling me that they're one paycheck away from being homeless. So it's not just the people out there that we think are not wanting to be homeless. There are people that are really falling into hard times. So these are some of our solutions. This is an open dialogue. What are we missing? So that's all I have. I'm Kathy, so I hope we can get some dialogue going.
Before we get to questions for Kathy, Commissioner Starkey is now with us, and as well as Councilman Colombo, so thank you guys for coming too. Is there any questions for Kathy?
Well, I guess I have a comment. I'm not in favor of that last one.
The congregate one?
No.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
But we're throwing all options out because we want to hear from the public.
Talk about three
Again,
options.
this is a community issue. We need community buy-in.
Okay. Commissioner Oakley?
Kathy, are we going out to these areas where the homeless are, where they're staying, and trying to get them to move out of that and into something else?
That's a great question, Commissioner Oakley. So Patrick can speak to that, but I will tell you, I personally went out to the woods. I spent, with Richie Carroll, one of the code enforcement officers, I spent pretty much the whole day in about 4, 5, 6 camps. And I was quite shocked at what I saw. And very messy, and they're not kept up very well. Some of the folks we talked to wanted some help. One of them actually walked us up to the car and actually took my card and said he definitely wanted help. And then 2 days later, he macheted somebody in the woods, and now he's in jail because he killed somebody. So we've got some serious issues, and just to think I was out there with this gentleman for a good 45 minutes sort of frightened me a little bit, but this is the reality of it. So Code does a wonderful job. Patrick, I don't know if you're here, if you want to add anything to that, but they see this day in and day out, and it's getting to the point where I think they're not going out to the camps anymore unless they have sheriff with them. So, Patrick?
Yes, that's correct. And I think we've had discussions prior to this. And it's based upon what Kathy just said, that the issue is code officers are not armed. They're not trained in any self-defense. They don't carry any weaponry with them. So it's best advised, at least on my end, that I call the sheriff's office beforehand. These guys usually do that. So we're working hand in hand with those guys, and a couple of their representatives are here in the back, and we've spoken to them many, many times when we come into these places. I just don't want my guys going in without the protection.
And then Pat, I think you've done a phenomenal job since you came in here. I mean, you went to a few different places in Hudson right off the bat, and we're getting some good work done. And then when the machetes came out, you had to protect you guys, and we appreciate that. You know, a lot of these people are from here, but I think we got a lot of people from other side as well. I think you've come across some of that experience. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, I don't have the exact numbers to say how many people are from or original Floridians or not, but what we hear is a majority of these folks are not from here. Maybe the sheriff's office can give you a better idea of that percentage or number-wise.
Donnie Anderson's the reason he's here.
Or maybe Don can, but what we're seeing, at least from our end, the people we can identify, a higher percentage are not from Florida originally.
You're finding that some of them are brought in from elsewhere as well?
That we don't know. They're here, we don't know how they got here.
Have you heard that from anybody, that maybe some people have been dropped off?
There's rumors about all kinds of ways that they've gotten here, from the weather being nice to anything else.
Don Anderson? Did you have a question?
Well, I do, but just to add on to that, I have constituents in Holiday that say that they have seen people being dropped off by some, I won't throw anyone under the bus, but there's been some inappropriate behavior and people have been dropped off at our county line. Yeah.
Don Anderson with the Coalition for the Homeless here in Pasco. Our recent point in time count, we asked the question, Commissioner Mariano has put to us on many occasions, we have it, and we determined 88% of the folks that we encountered in the point in time have been in Pasco County, some of them on average of 10 years. So that's the data that we have from the point in time count. 88% Pasco residents.
Now, just a couple of years ago, it was more like 65% or so we've seen an increase of our own people.
Well,
Like
I think
23%.
we are seeing an increase of Pasco residents. If you look at the ALICE data, it supports that we're going to see more and more folks homeless.
So how many of those people are from Pasco County?
Of the point in time count?
I mean, not from just been here for 8 years or longer, but just how many are born and raised here in Pasco County?
We only went to 10 and 15 years. So 15 years, 88%.
Okay, I'm going to dispute that.
Okay, I understand. It is a point in time.
But Commissioner Mariano, I want to make sure everyone knows, we did do something different this year. In the past, with our property owners, they had to file an annual no trespass agreement with the sheriff's office before we could get them off private property. Now we've gone to a perpetual no trespass agreement. I know that I spoke to the landowner at Plath and Little, and I'll tell you, it took her over 7 hours to fill her paperwork in. And so she's very grateful that she doesn't have to do this every year. But this is one of our tools, but when we get them off one property owner's place, they just moved us to another one. And so we do need an answer.
Councilman Peters?
Yeah, perhaps Kathy, you can tell us this, or maybe Don. You know, we have 400 folks, right? What do we know about those people? Do we have a percentage that are addicted? Do we have a percentage that are suffering from mental illness? Do we have a percentage that are just down their luck and just needs a little hand up? You know, I'm trying to understand just what we're dealing with.
I don't know, Don, you keep that statistic. I don't think you do. But I can tell you just from my visit out there, what I was hoping to maybe see is a veteran out there. And I probably visited 35 to 40 of them. I did not one of them was a veteran, so I thought they were veteran. Definitely we can try to get some service and help for them. And I did not see one woman. And so a lot of them have some major crimes behind them, have some mental health illness, definitely have substance abuse issues. That's the majority that I saw. But we also got to think about the folks that are a single male that is getting close to being homeless and all that. We still don't have a place to put them. And that is, I think, what we're trying to get direction from our leadership is where do we go? What is some solution? We can sit here and talk about other counties and this county and that county. We have 60-something camps. what are we gonna do about it? And that's what I'm asking all of you. We can sit here and debate that all day long, but we need to come up with a solution. And we're providing you some alternatives, and we're just trying to get some feedback. Is this the way we want to go?
I see Alexander Ellis there. Alex, will you come up? In recently talking with the sheriff, we had a homeless meeting, we had agreement that we need to have code going out with the sheriff's office and trying to work on time to actually go do that. So you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, sir. So that was some conversation that I know we had with you and code enforcement, kind of as you guys have been working on this and seeing more and more encampments out there. You know, we've always said that the part where the sheriff's office plays with all of this is the criminal aspect of it, right? So if there is, trespassing concern or something like that, that's when we would get involved. Now, that being said, with code enforcement going out there and talking to a lot of these folks and trying to start that whole process going with the trespass agreements, as you alluded to, Commissioner Starkey, sometimes they go out there and there's some concern for safety. So we've worked a lot with Patrick on that and said, hey, if they're planning on going out there, just give us a heads up in advance, and we'll share it with our district command so they can plan ahead for that. But also, they're always welcome if they go out there and something happens that wasn't planned. They're always welcome to notify us either through the non-emergency line, or if it's an emergency, 911 first. And he's always welcome to give me a call as well. So we've been working pretty good on that.
We actually have a great example. If you want to mention Monday, if I may. Yeah, Don Anderson. Code compliance has, along with the sheriff's office, has worked to identify the property owned by Walmart in an attempt to get a trespass agreement, and they were just successful with someone out of the Midwest, and that's being coordinated between code, the sheriff, and the coalition will participate as well. So Monday, an entire team will be going out to do the trespass work, and we'll offer services at that time. Make sure that all the individuals that are there on NHMIS and our homeless management information system, as well as on the by name list if they're seeking services. So it's a real good example of the coordination that goes on with the county staff.
John, stay there for a second. I want to go on this subject just a little bit, because a few years ago, down at Legion Lane, there was tremendous crime, prostitution, all sorts of issues over in that area.
Yes.
In that area, we went, and there was like 30 people at one point, offered them all services.
Do you remember?
Every one of them shut us down. And then when I called you up, because we had a couple of people sitting in front of the Eagles, you came back.
Yeah.
Went to those people too, that had nowhere to go, they said.
Yes.
None of these people took services.
That's right.
Now, I will say that, with the opioid settlement money that's coming up, there's discussions going on. I know the Harbors, now Baycare, but used to be the Harbors, is now working to actually get some funding and to redo a building that they have,
Yes.
where they can do treatment right there, and then even have housing for the folks right there that'll be coming forward.
Yeah.
I think that's a great opportunity.
I've heard both you and Commissioner Starkey mention that, and I mentioned it at a continuum of care meeting this morning, that I think there's a real opportunity to make a difference in that regard.
So it's mental health, opioid addiction, and it can be anybody with the opioids affected in almost any way. They could be homeless just because mom or dad went to jail and they don't have a place. They can be used for money for that. I think Ashley Moody's team did a great job putting a whole script together, which when I first heard about it, I was a little skeptical as far as thinking, it's settlement money, we should be able to decide how to do it. But the list is so extensive and I think so proper that we may be 8-10 years, hopefully, we could be done with the problem, that'd be great, but everything she's got in place lays up good. And I think there's potential for even working with them to do even matching fund money from what they got as well.
So if I
Commissioner
can-
Starkey?
Commissioner Kathy's, Mrs. Pearson has, is this on? Has tasked us with saying if we're willing to do something different than what we're doing now. I would say that I am not okay with people living on someone else's property. And when we shut one down, like we just did on 19 and Moog, they're gonna move to someone else's property. So we have to have a solution. So I'm up to exploring one of those other three options. I'm not up to exploring number 4. But I look forward to a pallet, to seeing how these pallets work. I've talked to some people who are representing them in Washington, I think we need to buy some land. I'm happy to have a nonprofit run it, not the county. But we have to have a place to take people, and they cannot stay on someone else's property.
Thank you, Commissioner Starkey, and I just wanted to add, because I'm glad you jumped in, Commissioner Mariano, because there's a great Walmart story, but where are they gonna go?
Right, they're gonna go somewhere else's property.
else. And that's my point. We close one, and then they're gonna go somewhere else. So we do not have a place to put them, and that's what I'm trying to get direction from. So thank you for that, and I do want to get on to the daycare and that conversation. So yes, opioid money, we're looking at possibly an urgent walk-in clinic, but just to remind you, they only have Baker Act beds. They don't have beds. I mean, if those folks come to the urgent health clinic and their beds are full, those folks still need a place to go. So I don't want you to think that they were going to have overnight stays in that urgent health care clinic. So just wanted to reiterate that. So we have been working, this team has been working hard behind the scenes, and it's time to hear from our community where you want us to go. You're all, I think you saw in the presentation, getting over 211 complaints. We've been tracking your complaints that you're getting from your constituents about this. So it's time we listen to them and do something. So I'm needing direction, and that's what I'm asking for. Thank you.
Kathy, one of the things years ago was talked about that, frankly, the San Francisco coalition out there, what they found to be the most effective of all the things they had done to reduce their population was actually sending people back from where they came from. You know,
That would be step one.
Well, years ago we tried, and we're going to try that, but there was resistance from having a place for them to land, fully accepted and everything else. I don't think it's our responsibility to take care of that situation. Talk with the sheriff about it. He's on board as far as working with someone like Clever Reynolds by name to give them funds where they can go send them back when they're from somewhere else. And I think it's something that we should be doing. And I don't trust, frankly, Don Anderson, the Homeless Coalition, because the information I've seen and I got is not correlating with 88% of people being from here.
So I can assure you with our visits to Tampa, Hope, and Pinellas Hope, that's one of the first things they do, is try to connect folks to the family before they actually, take them in, or even when they take them in, try to replace them to their families. So that is happening in other areas. I know.
The coalition operates with diversion. It's one of the first things we attempt to do. And if we can identify a bed outside the area that they can go to, and their support services, we'll put them on a bus or a plane, and we've done that on numerous occasions.
So think about all the things you just said that have to be in place.
Right.
It's not that easy to get that done. So, again, if those people were bussed down by somewhere else, and I've heard it done as far as Carolina or New York, they bus them down here, they send them down here, they leave them here. They say it's better in Florida. They need to go back to where they came from the same way. And if they don't have support up there, let them go deal with it.
So Commissioner Mariano, if we get the direction to move into one of these 1, 2, or 3 options, the not-for-profit Catholic Charities has a huge success on this, whether they'll be the agency of choice, I can assure you this is their business, they will do that. So,
Could you explain the 1, 2, and 3 options?
Sure.
Again, so.
Let's go back. Okay, so option 1, and let me just explain to you what Tampa and Pinellas Hope do, so maybe you can get a little bit of a visual. So Tampa and Pinellas Hope model that is run by Catholic Charities. In Pinellas, they've been there for 18 years. They started off with a tent city. They've gone to pallet homes, and not only have they gone to pallet homes, they've actually built apartments. So the folks come in there and they gradually work their way, and they have apartments and they're actually successful. They took that because Maggie Rogers, during the COVID, Mayor Castro was having a huge homeless problem. And so she approached Catholic Charities and said, I need you to set up me a tent city. And it was an emergency thing, 30 days, because she's having a tremendous problem with businesses and them camping out all over the place. Kennedy, I think it was where they set it up. Somebody remembers Kennedy and Fowler, I think. Florida Avenue, thank you. In the middle of the most prime location, she set a tent city up in 30 days. They were able to tackle a lot of the issues right then and there. Mayor Castro was so impressed that she said, we need to put some money and buy a building and help you start this Tampa Hope. They bought an industrial building over in Ybor City. A few of us have gone down there to see it. they just opened up, maybe not quite a year yet. So when we made 2 trips now they're renovated their main building, and that's where they provide all the services. They have a Bible study in there, they have a career source. When I was leaving, the Hillsborough County School representative was there and said, listen, you need to partner with them, because guess what? We just went into an agreement with them, because we're short janitorial staff in our schools, and we're gonna use them to do some janitorials. So there's some great connections. We're missing the boat. We're not doing anything at large scale on that. So that's the Tampa's Pinellas Hope, combination of pallets and canvas shelters, we like to call them. The second one is we can just purchase land and just have a bunch of tents and do some congregate dining and all of that kind of good thing. It might be something you want to start off with, not sure. And then the third thing would be just pallets. No tent cities, no canvas, just make it a pallet village of just all sorts of pallets for these folks to come and get, the help and resources they need. So roof over their head, and they're getting the resources they need. Does that help? Those are the 3 options.
So,
And if we're missing something, tell us.
Well, it does, and I think we need probably to look at, to get started, we haven't done anything yet, so I mean, to get started, I think we need to look at maybe a piece of property surplus or some property that we can get onto fairly quickly. I don't have a problem starting with a tent city, but moving into some kind of more structured after that.
So
Just
for
get started.
full transparency, we do have some buildings we're going to be looking at next month that have a little bit of acreage. So maybe it's a possibility, if that comes through, we could be maybe looking at these buildings and expanding, just like Tampa Hope does. They have their building, and then in the back, they have their tent city, and then they were building 200 pallet homes when we were there. I think that was on 6 acres? 6 acres, so.
And how many people do they house on that?
They'll have 200 pallets and 125 tents for a total of 325 homeless on that property.
Commissioner Starkey and Commissioner Wakeman?
I just have a question about funding. So, that's one of my questions, but, so how is it funded?
So with Tampa Hope, the county puts a lot of money into that. I think they purchased the building. Do you have the budget breakdown?
But I can forward
But we'll find.
The city, just the city, or the city and the county?
The county does not, the city of Tampa did. Same thing with Pinellas, I believe Pinellas County and the cities both contribute to Pinellas Hope. But they also do their own funding, they get grants and they do fundraising, so it's not all funded by them. Our thoughts was we have community development block grants that would definitely be eligible for this. But does the county need to put some money into it this year? I would think so. So, we're compiling budgets now, looking at maybe 1.5 million to, really get this thing where we want it to be. So we're working on that. But we wanted to just get out there and talk about it.
I would think that our citizens would be happy to see some of these camps near their homes moved. I mean, I get calls all the time, people using their hose, going to the bathroom in their yard, front yard, and yeah, we need something. And I would think we'd have a return on our investment.
And I think our sheriff would be happy too, because, I talk with Alex and Chase all the time. It's like, we just don't have a place to put them. So I think they would be supportive of speaking for them. I hope I'm okay, Alex.
Commissioner Wakeman?
Thank you. Should a consolidation like this happen, where would folks go during a storm event? During a storm event. Where would folks go during a storm event? If they were to be moved during a storm event, would they be put in a shelter with other citizens that weren't in this type of situation mixed in together in a space like this?
Great question. These pallet homes are built to 170 mile per hour winds, so they are hurricane safe.
Kathy, what is the cost of those pallet homes?
You got the cost there. So right under where it says road canvas shelters and pallets, you'll see the pallets are 64 square foot, which is very small, runs about 15,000. They come larger. They come, that's as small as you can get, but they do come larger. So that's about 15,000.
And then looking at the same one that when we saw these at with Catholic Charities Mile Stretch, they brought one in. It's really about like 12 by 12.
Anybody remember? 64 is 8 by 8, thank you, Kelly.
So it's just big enough for someone to get in there, have like a single-size bed, enough for, let's say, a piece of luggage. And the good thing about it, which may be something that may want to get these people out of the woods, is going to heat and air conditioning in it. So between a hard shelter and privacy for all their own stuff, I think safety-wise, it's an ultimate way to go. The tents there, they're still not getting any benefit there. It may not be enough to bring them up, but that structure right there, at 15 grand, I would wonder how many of those we could actually qualify, that would qualify in opioid money that we could actually use. Because if it's mental health, if it's an opioid addiction, et cetera, then it does qualify.
And go back to the tents, I'm glad you said that. So even though the tents are 200, they go through tents like crazy because of the weather here. So, the sun beating down on it and all that, so I can't remember what they said, they spent like $25,000 a year on tents, just changing tents over.
Okay, Councilman Peters?
So the question was, so $15,000 per unit, so but you've got to have some other buildings for showers, for heating facilities, and for, maybe other storage facilities.
Absolutely. So a couple of things on that. So the county, at least my little group here, is looking at maybe do we purchase a big building where we can provide all those services in that building, and so it would be that would be the congregate part. Or these pallets also provide, you can purchase dining areas and showers, bathrooms, and all of that. They have them where you can purchase those too. So that's why I say it could be a pallet village.
Any other questions on this issue? Yes.
What has been the growth over the past 5 years of the homelessness? You ran into this one count of 400 or 500. What has been that growth over the past 5 years?
So according to the count, the unofficial count, we have 250 to 400. I believe those numbers have gone down according to those counts. That's what they're saying, they're going down. I think you talk to other folks, they'll see the rise of homeless in our county, so I don't know, I can only go by what the Homeless Coalition has done on their point-in-time count, which they do once a year.
I'll say one of the things with the Grove Center up in Hudson, they are a high barrier shelter that makes sure that people are working, and I've used them many times on different projects, whatever. They just went through, they had 5 or 8 people from men graduate to get their own place, 5 women as well, so it does work, and they do transfer people over, but they go through.
And we thank them. We thank a lot of the folks that are doing the great stuff now. We just need more, and we need a little barrier. And so that's where the issue comes.
And Kathy, we were out at Youth Lane,
Yes.
with Catholic Charities. There's some improvements we can make out there. They're pretty much jammed out. They even took one of the units for the family and had to use it for office space. There's probably enough to put a few mobile units that are out there that could take some more families, get them off the street.
And Ryan Hogan is working with that right now. He's on that plan. He's on a mission to get that done too with Catholic Charities.
On the palletized housing, 400, one person per unit, you're talking roughly $6 million to accommodate the homeless issue right now without restrooms or anything. So it's probably closer to $6.5 million.
I don't think we would do that wide of a scale right now. I think we're talking maybe 100, 150 right now, just to see where that all goes. I don't think we'd be looking at 400 people. We need to grow as we can see how this is all going to work out. So that's I think we need to start small, 50, 100, and see how that all lands.
So $2 million, $2 to $3 million.
And I will tell you, the not-for-profits that we would be looking at, they'd have to put some skin in the game too. So it's not all going to be 100% the county or whatever. They folks that we have talked to are willing to put some skin in the game too.
Is it non-profits going to put skin in the game?
Yes.
Like I know Catholic Charities,
Yes.
others?
I've not talked to any others.
All right, because most of them I think are dependent on us.
Only because the experience that they have, that's why we.
No, I'd say Catholic Charities, I was so impressed with the presentation, when they showed the palette, they talked about what they were doing. I didn't know there was a group out there that could do as much as they've done. I do have a lot of faith in them.
I think we need a thumbs up or thumbs down from some of the other electeds in here.
So, I'll give you I like the pallet issues. I'd also like to, I'd like for there to be a lot of communication on activities that we participate in working with the homeless. If there's a large camp that's going to be dispersed, maybe that needs to be communicated, particularly, if we're going to do one, we ought to let the county know. Hey, there's this person camp, 20 individuals. We're going to go somewhere, so we just need to understand that because it's going to go across the border, so to speak, right? We just need to understand that so we can maybe have coordinated efforts in that.
Sir?
I love the idea of the ballot.
Mayor Mellon?
Yeah, I would concur with that. The pallets, I think, make a lot more sense, particularly with the ability to have storm-proof. Tents are a mess. I mean, every summer we've seen that storms roll through. It's not a great deal of hurricane. It's going to flatten those tents. So I would think do that and get some support services right where we're putting the pallets. And also check with these people and maybe to your point, find out where they came from. I had an encounter yesterday with one of them that his mother filed a missing persons report up in Massachusetts a month ago. And she found out that he was in Florida yesterday.
Commissioner Oakland?
Kathy, could you set up a tour so we can go see Catholic Charities, see what they do?
We would love to, sure, we have been there, and we will set up another one. We'd love you to come and see that, absolutely. And if I can just say thank you, and thank you to my team that works in the Homeless Coalition, the Sheriff's Department, the Behavior. We are really coming together to try to help conquer this problem, and I just want to offer to each and every one of you, if you've got homeowners or you've got a council meeting, whatever, Paul and I will come and speak. We want to hear the constituents. We want to hear what their solutions are. So please, we throw that out to you, and you can get my contact information.
All right, as of right now, on April 17th, there is going to be a Hudson Town Hall meeting. Sonia, in the audience, where is it going to be at?
We're going to hold it in our office, or in our
In Newport
boardroom.
Richie?
Yes, in Newport
Okay,
Richie.
so we're gonna have-
We expect a large turnout.
So if we could,
We will be
if we
there.
have other electeds that want to go, we could make it a public hearing meeting. Probably a good idea at this point. And let's have a big, so this way everybody can come, we can have discussion and listen and have dialogue with the people that, it's a group that started out kind of small, it's grown and grown, up and down the whole area, so I think it'll be a productive meeting. They have a whole list of things, and we had a meeting with probably 20 people in our conference room just about a week ago, and we went over their list and had a really good set of lists to go over, and we're trying to get more information for them as we keep on going.
We're here to help.
Okay.
So whatever we can do. Thank you for allowing us to talk. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Okay, harm reduction presentation, Department of Health.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paula Baracaldo. I'm the Director of Support Services and current chair of the Opioid Task Force. As you know, our community has been negatively impacted by the misuse of opioids. And in the last few years, all of our municipalities, together with nonprofits and other community organizations, have gotten together to try to figure out ways to mitigate the impact of this terrible disease. So to address some of the solutions available to us today as a community, I have the unique pleasure of introducing Tran Chigatone. She's the Assistant County Health Department Director, and Shelby Metters, the Executive Director for the Florida Harm Reduction Collective. These two exceptional public health public servants will provide you with an overview of the expansion of the Infectious Disease Elimination Act, which was passed in 2019, and how Pasco County, through a potential implementation of the harm reduction program, could make a difference in the lives not just of our community, but of those members that are negatively impacted by substance use disorder. With that,
Good afternoon. I'm short, so let's see if I can. Can you hear me okay? Everybody can hear me okay? Okay, hi. So I'm Shelby Metters, as introduced. Thank you for having me today. I'm just going to spend a few quick minutes talking about harm reduction. If you're not familiar with what harm reduction is, it's any positive change. So harm reduction can be somebody who uses medications for opioid use disorder. So that could be your Suboxone, your Vivitrol, your Methadone. That could be somebody who practices abstinence-based recovery. So somebody who chooses not to use any substances whatsoever during their recovery. Harm reduction, as I said, any positive change is something that decreases the negative consequences of something. So in common everyday terms, harm reduction is a fire extinguisher. So you don't want fires to happen, right? But they're inevitable sometimes. Fires happen. But by having something like a fire extinguisher on hand, you're decreasing those negative consequences of something. So we're talking about drug use today, and we're talking about syringe service programs, which is a type of harm reduction. So talking about the economic costs, looking at one Hep C infection for one individual, it costs over $80,000. For Pasco County in 2017, and 2017 is the last data we were able to pull from ACA, from the state, Pasco County picked up almost $18 million for individuals who did not have insurance who went to the hospital for an injection-related infection they had. So again, they shared injection equipment, they got a really nasty infection which leads to endocarditis and other medical complications. They didn't have health insurance and they were hospitalized. The county had to pick that up. 18 million is the last that we have on record. And then for one HIV infection without any type of complications, we're looking at over $300,000. So what are we doing? And what can we do? So the Infectious Disease Elimination Act that came out in 2016 allowed for one pilot program in Miami. It was a 5-year pilot. 3 years in, it was doing so well, Governor DeSantis signed it into law. So since 2016, these programs have been popping up across the counties. We have 6 right now as of 2023, but again, as of 2019, they were able to open. Each county has to pass a law to allow for such program. You can see here in 2019, the Pasco representatives that voted yes: Hooper, Simpson, Ignolia, Mariano, and Zika. In the Senate, there was 40 yes votes and 0 no votes. In the House, there was 111 votes, 3 no votes, and 3 missed. So I'm talking about syringe service programs, but just to reiterate, SSPs, which are a version of harm reduction, they provide resources to people who use drugs. It links them to treatment. The goal under this law is disease elimination and prevention. So we're preventing these diseases and preventing those costs from coming to the county. So who operates an SSP, a syringe service program? Hospitals, healthcare clinics, medical schools, addictions receiving facility centers, and HIV/AIDS service organizations. In the state of Florida, you cannot use state, county, or municipal funds to operate SSPs. So these are the services, and this is actually not even inclusive of all services because SSPs completely wrap around offering all types of services to an individual. These are some examples. So there's a free one-to-one exchange of syringes. For every syringe that person brings that they have used, you can give them 1 sterile syringe in exchange for that. And then you take the syringes they give you and you properly dispose of them. You test for hepatitis C, you test for HIV, and you also treat if they have it. You offer Narcan, naloxone, and overdose prevention education and training. You refer directly to treatment. A lot of programs across the state have them on site. Treatment providers, you can link directly to treatment. Vaccinations. The Pinellas County location has the Department of Health come in once a week and offer free vaccines to anybody. And beyond just Hep A and B, but COVID, flu, everything. Referral to mental health and medical services. This also includes enrolling for health insurance, and then also access and wound care. So providing basic wound care for people so they're preventing these nasty infections they're getting and then having to go to the ER for them. So the responsibilities. So there is a county ordinance that does have to pass at the county level. The commission enters into a letter of agreement with the department and contracts for the syringe exchange. There's a one-to-one exchange. Again, for every syringe that's brought in that individual that they use, they can get 1 in exchange for that. And again, it's required for these programs to offer HIV and Hep C testing. It's required they offer referrals to counseling and referrals to treatment for substance use. It's required to give out Narcan and also education around that. And we do collect data at all of these programs that are reported to DOH every year. And so the Department of Health enters into a letter of agreement with the county commission. They offer advice and consultation to the programs that are operating, and again, report data every year back to the commission and to the state. So real quick, these programs have proven, and we do have the research linked both here in this PowerPoint. I'm happy if anyone wants to reach out to see the studies here. SSPs are directly linked to reduce overdose deaths. They're linked to increased linkage to care, and that's, again, any type of care, whether that's treatment, that could be somebody that needs a primary care doctor, that could be somebody that has a brain tumor and needs specialized care. It leads to decreased costs of Hep C and HIV treatment. The programs are directly linked to decreasing those rates of those infections, so there's no cost when they don't have the disease later on because you're preventing it. And then there is an increase to public safety by decreasing syringe litter. And I'll go more to talk about here. I highlighted a lot of words, but highlighting a few things here. They are associated with a direct linkage to 50% reduction in HIV and hepatitis C. New users of syringe service programs are 5 times more likely to enter drug treatment and 3 times more likely to stop using drugs altogether. And it is directly linked to a 50% less syringes improperly disposed of. And you have to think with this law, you have to bring a syringe in to get one. So day one of the Pinellas exchange, they took in 500 syringes and they gave out 70 that day. So you can kind of already see where there's way more coming in that are out disposed of in the community that are coming in and not that many going out.
Thank you, Shelby. So I want to talk a little bit about what the community say. So syringe exchange programs are supported by local entities within the county. We have some individuals here in the audience today that support the program as well as and nationwide is supported. The Pasco County Sheriff's Office has issued a statement that says that they view a safe needle exchange as a public health initiative, not a law enforcement initiative. However, they do support the stance of public health if they view it as beneficial. The Department of Health, along with the Alliance for Healthy Communities, joined the efforts, and we sent out a week-long survey asking residents what they thought and what they thought they needed within the community. There was about 400 respondents, and 94% of the respondents said that yes, there is an opioid crisis within the county. We know that. However, we were surprised to see that over 80% of the respondents said they were not aware of services in the county for folks wanting to overcome addiction. And then finally, over 50% says that they have seen needles within the county that need to be discarded. Also, the community the respondents have said that over 32% have said that they have a family member, a friend, somebody they know who has overdosed or passed away from addiction. These are some of the things that they're also saying. That students in school who have parents who use, they can't take their children to the park because there's needles on the ground. There's drug paraphernalia outside of elementary schools that kids can see. People have experienced family members who've passed away from overdoses. And finally, children are going to their bus stops and seeing needles on the ground. So why does Pasco County need the syringe exchange program? So number one is to reduce infectious diseases, which I'll go over, provide additional education to the public for the services that we have with the county, as well as intervention for substance use abuse, and then also to increase public safety, to get the litter off the ground of the needles. Just touching on infectious diseases, on the left you'll see in the gray, you'll see that Pasco County leads the state in hepatitis C infections. If you take the numbers that it takes to treat the infection, you're looking at $5.8 million to treat hepatitis C in 2021 for the county. Now, on the right, you'll see that in Pasco County, HIV infection is lower than the rest of the state. However, if you dive into those numbers, the HIV diagnosis for IV drug users is increasing. And I compared it to Miami-Dade diagnosis, who has seen a decline since their inception of their program. They've seen a 40% decrease. But you can see that Miami-Dade, who's triple the size of our county, we're seeing the same amount of infections through IV drug use, something that we can prevent. If we were to take their success rate and apply it to a program that we have here, we could be looking at a $2.3 million savings in healthcare related to something that we can prevent. Also, the Pasco County Sheriff's Office works hard to respond to overdoses. In 2022, they responded to over 1,500 overdoses. 23% of them were fatal. So that means every day they're responding to at least 4 overdoses, and at least 1 is fatal. That's a 3% increase from 2021. They also reported, out of all the overdoses they've seen, 4% is truly homeless. Now I say 4 to 10% because the 10% depicts the folks that are couch surfing, who doesn't quite meet the homeless definition. Along with the overdose data, the state reports that, again, Pasco County, in the blue on the left, leads the state in overdose deaths. When we're looking at Pasco County related to all counties across near us, we're still one of the highest related to right there next to Pinellas. Related to public safety, these are just some pictures that my staff were able to go out to based on the survey that we got and get some pictures of needles that are on the ground. Now, I showed pictures on the west side, but we've from the survey, we've identified needles at the Epperson Center, Hudson, all over the county. So these are things that kids are seeing at bus stops, people are seeing out there on the streets. So just to summarize, the syringe exchange program is just one component for harm reduction. It's a tool that we can use to address community concerns related to public health, needle litter, and to reduce healthcare costs for infectious diseases. Addiction is a community issue, and we need the community to come together to be able to address this issue. And this is why we need your help. Any questions?
Any questions?
Well, I guess I do have a question. What was that yellow dot? Was that on the heat map? Right
Yeah,
there.
so the darker areas is where they're seeing the most.
Yeah, so what's the yellow?
That is
that
a great
less?
question. I got that from the sheriff's office, but I will get back to you on the yellow part. I know that the darker spots are more overdoses.
Councilman Peters?
So question, did you say 4 to 10% were homeless? So let's take that average, maybe about 7%. So 7% of the 1,500 overdoses were homeless individuals, right? So that gets to be about 105. So does that mean 25% of our homeless people are overdosed? Or is this, do you have how many overdoses are with the same individual? How many individuals overdosed in 2022? See what I'm saying? So we have 1,500 people that overdosed in 2022. Some of those might have been more than once the same individual.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Sure. So just trying to figure out, we have homeless of 400 people, but 7% of that gets to be like 105 people. So that equals almost 25% of the overdoses is to our homeless individuals.
Well, and also, just to clarify that this is what the Pasco County Sheriff's Office responded to. So this is what they responded to and reported to the state as far as what they saw, not a total.
Councilman Colon?
I just had a question. You had a survey up there.
Yes.
You had a survey up there.
Yes.
That one there, which says 32% of respondents had a family member or friend who overdosed or passed away from addiction. I'm just curious, that seems like a pretty high percentage to me. How did you run that survey, and did it potentially attract folks who were interested in the subject, therefore the higher percentage rate?
So
I'm not sure that's...
Sure. So we worked with the Alliance for Healthy Communities to push this out on a social media platform. Right. And one of my staff can actually speak a little bit more.
Hi, I'm Brittany Marin. So that survey was written and it was pushed out on Facebook.
through a Pasco news source that we use. And it just asked, it stated that ASAP was looking for responses to a survey. We got people on both ends of the spectrum, and we took the comments that they wrote, because there was an open text field at the end. And we went through and read through all of them and themed them by what they had stated. So if somebody said, I have a family member, we went ahead and put a tally mark basis.
So in other words, you solicited members to participate in the survey. And anytime you do that on almost any survey, you're going to attract people that are particularly interested for one reason or another in that subject. So I don't know how that necessarily reflects the populace.
Yeah, this isn't, we weren't using the survey to say kind of an overall, this is the population of Pasco County, 32% see that. It was just of our survey.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to.
So we could kind of see who was responding.
Yeah, again, I just kind of wanted to know how the survey rolled out, so to speak.
Yeah.
Good old statistics.
Well, again, you can put that almost any subject. Code enforcement, for example, yeah, you're going to get a ton of people that are really interested in code enforcement. So is that representative of the population? Maybe yes, maybe not.
Good question. Any other questions? I know we have a lot of subject matters here. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, second topic of discussion, development, redevelopment, West Market area for redevelopment.
Good afternoon. Commissioners and council members, I'm Joanna Chapman, Chief of Staff for County Administration. I have a little bit of a softball player here, it's just an update, really. We're not looking for profound policy direction. But the West Market Area Redevelopment Plan was put in place by the County Commissioners about a decade ago with the help of a consultant and our staff members. It still exists despite the ebbs and flows of our priority changes and our staff changes over the years. But I think we can agree that it seems like it hasn't been used as a guiding light for our work thus far. And so the county dedicated a staff person to engage with the community, break some silos, and bring back to life this vital plan. Over the past year, Kelly Funk, project specialist, has built the West Market Action Committee, made up of motivated citizens from the West Market area. This group meets monthly at the West Pasco Government Center to voice concerns and share ideas. Also, Kelly has arranged for guest speakers to come speak to them at each one of their meetings so they can learn more about current projects and just the inner workings of government. Members of this group have also, all but one of them, been through the Pasco Citizens Academy, so they've definitely learned a lot over the past year. We welcome any elected officials or team members who would like to attend these meetings. We are currently working we're currently working to audit more than 150 priority items and tasks that come out of the report that sits in front of you. That's the old report from, I believe, 2013. So we're auditing that right now to see what we've accomplished, what is left thus far, and we can reevaluate based on the direction, reevaluate our direction with your guidance. So we will provide our findings when we are finished with that, and I'm happy to take any thoughts you may have today.
Any questions, thoughts?
Well, I would just say that I'm very excited that we're putting this focus on that corridor. It's needed some attention. Lots of times we hear that everything's happening in Wesley Chapel and nothing's happening on the west side. So we've put a lot of resources and a lot of focus on making sure that the 19 corridor has a economic and quality of life renaissance. So we appreciate all of our help.
Okay. For sure.
I've been noticing too that redevelopment of that corridor there of 19 and all, that's going on and happening, and more people getting involved. So it's very good to see that, and what might have been, they've already changed a lot of that, so it's really changed just recently to start looking better.
And to add on, we're really putting a focus on the coastline and the water quality and working on a dredging plan for much of the coast. And I don't know if David Engel wants to say anything at a high level, but we are working on some projects that will really have a humongous impact, I think, on the face of 19. So maybe he can just speak to what he thinks he can speak about.
Good afternoon, everybody. High level, tremendous investment on the 19 corridor. From Flora 19 in near Tarpon Springs, all the way up to the Fernando County border, housing is being built,
Shopping centers are being repaired and renovated. We're helping small business rehabilitate the properties with landscape grants and capital loans. And this year, I promise you, we're going to have one or two major items for the board agenda for ripping down shopping centers and redeveloping those properties. That's what's going on high level.
If you remember the old high Burger King sign there in, I don't know if it was Darlington or Moog or somewhere along there, they're down. He reinvested in his building. The Great Subs is being reinvested into a Charlie's and new landscaping, new signs. So I think you can really, over the last few years, really see a difference in the way US 19 is starting to look.
Right, and that project was a Board of County Commissioner Small Business Assistance Project.
And I would say thank you also to the sheriff's office. They've done some raids on some known drug houses, especially behind the Wawa. And so those are gone, knocked down to the ground. And I certainly have seen a difference there. So I hope you're seeing, at least, I'm speaking from my area, I speak for yours, but I see big improvement on 19.
Yeah, and I think Dave has been very helpful. We have a project coming up in Hudson off of New York Avenue, Hicks Road area, where we got a 160-acre industrial park coming forward. Dave's been very helpful. We try to herd them together to bring it all together to go forward. The commission's very, very receptive with developments coming, direct money for there. Just being up in Tallahassee, one of the groups up there for economic development mentioned they could actually put money into the roadways if they need them. And the board just approved a board-initiated plan for New York Avenue to take a section that wanted to come in for multifamily housing, which was going to take away jobs, to actually take all the landowners to come forward and actually make it for where it can be a lighter industrial product. So
it's a great story. We have jobs, we have capital investment, we'll have rising property values, rising ad valorem taxes, sales tax capture. It's a wonderful story, and literally within a decade, that whole corridor will be transformed.
And certainly we see.
I've been a supporter of my commissioners on the West Coast ever since I was elected, to the point of wading knee deep in water, and later on I heard it was not very clean water. But I was out there with her and Jack, and I looked at a lot of places about flood issues, and so I have concerns, and to be able to support my commissioners on the west side, I spend the time to go check it out and look at that stuff, and I've been along with them as support of cleaning up 19 and it being much better than what it has been, and it's on the way. So it really, David's brought out a lot of things we got going on there. So.
Councilman Peters and Murphy.
Well, the city of Newport Richey is very interested in the redevelopment of US 19. We're trying to do our best efforts to do that as well. It's one of our priorities, and we've had, we've seen some changes already happen near Main Street with Kaiser University. Where apartment structures right next door, able to do covered ends, about to be opening. We have some projects that's happening down near the shopping center there in Golden Harbors, the new condominiums, and a hotel going in where the Magnificent Hotel is, that's planned. And we are actively looking at other properties up and down 19 to find appropriate areas for redevelopment. So we'd like to be very much interested in participating in that West Market area, so we can maybe tag team on some projects that we'd like to be informed and be participant in that.
We would more than be happy to work with you, and we certainly look at the efforts that you've made as a template for our success in our future. Thank you.
So maybe Kelly, in the future, you can have a meeting right at the city council chambers and kind of bring your team together and have it right there.
I'd love to have you all come to a meeting. I'll send out an invitation for this next West Market Action Committee. Mr. Dukes, I'm already one, so I'd love to have you all.
Councilman Murphy?
Yeah, I thank you for putting that focus on, US 19 in that corridor. We have a small little section in that big piece of real estate, but we're doing our best efforts to try to get things done and redevelop. And, as we, the county and the city, both we've been out of there quite a bit. Along 19, so we appreciate all the help, and I always say, we're the sports coast, so we really like the help over there.
Yeah, I would like to add too that one thing Newport Richey has that
I've not discussed this with my fellow commissioners, so I'm speaking to myself here. But you have a highway overlay district for Highway 19. We do not have that. Now, granted, we have an even smaller section of 19 than you do. I think it runs about 1.5 miles. And we've seen some changes. I've been in Pasco County for a long time, as have many of you. And a lot of it kind of happened organically in our city, in as much as West Pasco used to be, we used to call that the jewel of Pasco County. We were it, okay, we were the thing. And then it aged in place. And this happens in many, many, many areas. This is not unique to us. You have neighborhoods that were all built around the same time, they aged in place, they weren't kept up. And then you had the economic downturn back around 2008, 2009, where we lost a lot of our businesses on 19, not just in the city, north up towards around the mall, around where Target used to be in those areas. What you're now seeing is the economy improving to a point where our little city, as an example, the intersection of Ridge Road and 19, now you've got some newer restaurants in there, newer buildings in there, but there's still some areas where we would like to do something, again, along the lines of what Newport Richie have, to, control those little portions of R19 that still are unattractive, they're old buildings and just don't get upgraded. So I would like to keep moving along. Again, Port Richie section of 19 is a very small slice of the pie, but it is a slice of the pie. Again, people heading south, the south end of our city is what they see right before they go over the bridge into your city. And I know that's an issue that concerns you too. So we do all have to kind of work together to come up with a unifying image. Highway 19, for better or for worse, is kind of the image of West Pasco County to an awful lot of people.
Mayor Mullin.
And I'll tack right off of that. And it's something that's not a very good image of Pasco County. It has gotten some national recognition as one of the, if not the most dangerous roads in the entire country. I'd like to suggest, particularly with the development that you're talking about up in Hudson, the additional stuff going on down in Holiday, and what we've got going in Newport Richie and Port Richie, that maybe we need to rethink the role of US 19. It is not a highway. And we've got problems, a lot of them are speed related, where we've got a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit and people are doing 60 plus. Maybe we need to lean on FDOT to rethink the way this road is configured, make it safer for local traffic. Get that speed limit down to like what they've got down in St. Petersburg, where it's 30 or 35 miles an hour, and traffic actually travels that. In coming from Spring Hill down to Newport Richie, I'm averaging 30 miles an hour already. I mean, it's not like it's a big change. The problem is you've got very slow traffic and you've got crazy fast traffic, all intermixed. You've got curb cuts everywhere where people are going to these local businesses that we're encouraging to build there on US 19. And it's just not a safe situation. So I think we need to get with FDOT and maybe, both cities and the county all together and talk to them about, what can we do to make this a functioning street for West Pasco?
Well, not to interrupt, but, to play off of what you just said, I remember talking to a rather high-ranking FDOT official a number of years ago, and their basic opinion was exactly what you were saying, was 19 used to be the north-south major corridor on the west side, and they were focused, after they put an awful lot of money down in Pinellas County with their turn lanes and flyovers and everything they have down here, was as far as Pasco County goes, they were never going to put a lot of money into turning 19 into an even bigger, faster highway. Their efforts are going to be over on Little Road side, away from the coast. So their vision of 19 was, in fact, as told to me, and this is going back a number of years, that their ultimate vision for 19 was more along the lines of what you're saying, was that it was going to turn more into a main street and less of a major north-south thoroughfare.
Yeah, I don't know if you can change the demographics of the population for where it is.
Yeah,
it's going to be a travel.
You can't make everybody drive on Little Road, if they're going down to Pinellas County. They maybe they are, maybe they aren't, depends on where they're going. But I just said from what I gathered, the focus from DOT was, don't expect you're ever going to see any big flyovers or overpasses. There's not enough land. The eminent domain property they would have to buy would just be insanely expensive. And then again, you're basically building, enhancing, and encouraging driving on a major north-south thoroughfare that is very close to the house from the store.
I will say, one of the, I think the ultimate redevelopment project we have is also safety related, is that underpass under the bridge. Coming from DC, sitting on the Transportation Committee, they talked about they had safety money, which they never fully allocate all the money they had. And the way the federal government's done that now is that money's sitting there, waiting to be claimed for safety. And I think, if you want to talk about right now, we'll talk about later, but that project there, I think, is critical for both cities and the county. It's a great safety project. Having golf carts cross over on 19, it's not the ultimate way to go. The safety underneath is good. I think the city of Port Richey can work, and I've had discussions with the Lowe's, with catches, whereas your sidewalk project is not going to go into catches and onto the old dock to the north side. There's an opportunity there for somehow, it's going to take working with, I think the NPO, working with DOT, catches to work on some type of exchange to at least get that first part done. And it could be a tremendous opportunity. With what you own for property there, you could probably build this without you guys having to come out with a dime of money. But if we can make that underpass happen, I think this safety money could fund the whole project, from what I'm hearing up there. I think it's worth a shot, but we got to come together, two cities in the county asking for it, to try to make it a better community thing and make it a safer way to transverse across 19. But it's going to take the three of us together, all three of us.
That's all.
Any more about West Market redevelopment? Okay. Port Richey and County Riverside Development Collaboration. Port Richey brought that subject up, I believe.
Okay, well, I'll start out with, the county bought some property on the river. We kept it under the radar so that we could make that purchase happen. It's on the south side of the Cody River, next to Whiskey River. And also we bought a piece on US 19. I think one piece is in the city of Newport Richey and one piece is in the city of Port Richey. And we're separated by a motel, not a hotel, I think it's a motel. I literally went up and down the coast trying to find some piece of property where we could get more boater access for the public, and stumbled upon that piece of land, and thankfully our administration we took general fund money and we went into contract and purchased that. And I know that City of Newport Richey has some aspirations to come in with us and partner in a redevelopment of some type on that corner. And I know I have spoken with some of your electeds and said, I am sure the county would work with you to maximize the potential of what that could be for the area. And I think we have some investors who are willing to come in. So I hope that we can do something big and help our boaters and help our community in that area on the river.
I think this idea is really, it is absolutely fantastic. It's one of the ideal places to put a big, major boat launch type facility. It's on the downstream side of the bridge, so we don't have to worry about the height. It's got deep water, it's dredged all the way out to the Gulf of Mexico. It just makes huge, huge sense. And so, yes, Newport Richey is very definitely interested in being involved in trying to make this happen. It's a win for Newport Richey because it will take pressure off the Main Street boat ramp where people are now going, because it's one of the few places they can go. and then they speed down the river instead of going idle speed, creating problems for our residents. It's a win for Port Ritchie because, let's face it, the next park ramp facility is really tiny. It just works out all the way around for everybody. So I'm excited to see it.
Well, Commissioner Starkey did a great job bringing that project together, bringing it to the board, and the board was unanimous to make it happen. Very excited about it. I think it would be good if something could happen with that hotel as well, because motel, that should be a premium piece of property, not affordable housing like we have in some hotels we have up in Odessa, or even elsewhere, right? I mean, it should be highlighted, so I think the opportunity could be great for that.
We would agree with that.
Great vote, like a boutique hotel, something along those lines, we have a vote on it, because there's a lot of different marinas, and that's the perfect place to have a great boat launch with the marina, with a restaurant, and a boutique hotel, make it something a little nicer for us. The prime location is beautiful.
There's property on the east side of the highway as well, is right there's available, so there's a lot of possibilities.
And I think Mayor Marlowe touched on something that's probably one of our concerns. He's saying, well, when they launch upriver, they go down the river and they bother all our residents. So if they launch there, they don't go by our residents. Instead, they can kind of come through Port Ritchie. So one of our concerns is that's one of our oldest neighborhoods, and it's all residential for the most part, other than Whiskey River, I think, is right next door. But the rest of that is all residences around. So the couple concerns. One of them is just where it's at in the river. I think the currents are pretty strong there, more so than in Nick's Park. There's no currents. It's perfect for novice boaters to put in and out. The other issue that's going to be a problem that we experience just within town is where you turn in to get there. It's a narrow road going in. When you turn there, you can only, when you leave there from the boat ramp to go on to 19, you can't head northbound. So that means folks would have to, unless we change the traffic pattern, go south and then do a U-turn on 19 with boat and trailer and everything else. So there's a lot of challenges there. Not to say they can't be things that can't be worked around, but I think one of the concerns that we have for just the residents in Port Ritchie is the amount of boat traffic that goes through there. And then the other issue is going to be, and not that we're necessarily opposed, these are just things that have been brought to my attention from some of our residents. Not just the boat traffic, but you also have Whiskey River, and that business has a parking lot, and I don't know if you guys would have a separate parking lot or a staging area to where you're not interfering with that business, and I don't know exactly what the plan is, but I know that the business owners there had reached out and had some concerns whether or not that's going to bleed into their business or their restaurant.
Yeah, and the major concern for that neighborhood, that's my neighborhood, so I'm familiar with it, is you got some nice property there. I like it. But, the reason the old bridge was there, that's the narrowest part of the river. So, yeah, that's where you're going to get the most currents and the least amount of room as far as boats launching, maneuvering, staging, etc. From a neighborhood standpoint, Cedar and Pier Road is the ingress to that entire residential area. So if the plan is to bring boats and trailers down Pier Road from Cedar, it's a very narrow road. And on the weekends, it's just going to be slammed all the way out to 19 with boat trailers backing up, waiting to get in. Now, I don't know if your plans or how far you've gotten along with your plans as to, are you planning on making it to where the boats come into the facility and leave the facility on 19 without coming through the actual neighborhood? Because that would be the optimal thing all the way around for everybody's concerned. Now, again, you've got that other motel sitting right in the middle right now. And from my observation, that motel is used an awful lot for like outside contractors and stuff, people that are coming in from Duke and staying for a month or two to work on a project. It's not really, from what I can see of the traffic in there, a tourist type motel. I'm not knocking a hotel down, I'm not building it up, I'm just saying that's what it is. I mean, I had always kind of figured, in my not having spoken anything about it, that might have been potentially on your plate to get hold of that piece of property to tie everything together.
I think the key would be, and we haven't had discussion about, frankly, But I think that the idea would be for that hotel to be, if we could get that hotel and then combine it together, now you can actually work to control, which you bring up some good points, so we can control it into one property. I think we'll work.
I mean, that would be perfect if we could make it work.
Yeah, we've done no designing or anything, we just secured the property.
Right, and again, like I
And then
said,
they have some work to do.
from a neighbor's standpoint, it's the potential for a full weekend of nothing but clogged roads trying to get in and out.
Well, I'm sure the design will consider all of that.
Mayor Marlowe.
I appreciate the concerns of the folks from Port Ritchie, and when I tell you that I'm excited about it, I see this as being something that is going to have ingress and egress directly off 19, and if we have to lean on FDOT to put another traffic light there so that stuff can get in and out of it, so be it. Because we don't want to put people on Post Road. I mean, no. That whole area going down towards Cornets is just tiny. And narrow roads, and the traffic will be permanently snarled. That makes no sense. But if we can open it up so that we can get the traffic, the boat and trailer traffic to come in off 19 and go back out off 19, that I think would be ideal. It would solve the neighborhood problem, and it would give us that additional place where people can launch. And as you said, we've got some property assembly to do and some work to make it happen. But I think it's doable.
Well, for discussion.
And then, we had some issues when they did all those median renovations a number of years back with FDOT, the way they did the one by Cedar, but then they put one up by the motel. The motel had a left-hand, northbound left-hand going in. And we couldn't get a light to get them to change their mind because they planned years ahead, and by the time we were aware, it was already in work. And I assume that the county decided a little more full with FDOT than we did in one of those cities. I mean, if you're doing a project that's for the public good, that's on 19, it takes some rearranging of meetings, certainly think FDOT would be able to do.
Well, with the three of us working together, it's a good discussion to have. Good points.
And I was going to come back over here, my turn.
Mayor Trumbull.
If I may, because it kind of feeds into the next park boat ramp discussion, because we're really talking about how we're going to get boats in and out, whether it's there or through Nick's Park. Nick's Park is still an asset that's frankly a better place to launch boats in terms of where it's located on the river, in terms of not having the currents there and that sort of thing. I think it's just a safer place to launch boats. The way that Nick's Park boat ramp is situated is you have one staging area, and the ramp is actually all the way to the south side, which is closest to where the casino boat is located. But realistically, there's probably enough room within Nick's Park to actually have two staging areas and have two boat ramps. Have one on the very north side, one on the very south side, and then have a dock that goes down the middle, where you could have people launching two boats instead of one. The problem is for our city, I think we would be restricted in terms of having the resources to redevelop that, to have more boat ramps and to have that type of thing redeveloped. So I guess where I'm driving or where I'm going with this is I think that the county's plan works really well if you can obtain that because you have enough room to stage, enough room to park, and enough waterfront area. If you don't have that hotel, I think you're limited in space there in terms of trying to put a boat launch and parking and all that. It may merit some discussion if that can't develop the way that the county wants to develop it. Maybe redeveloping Nick's Park and helping us with the resources there to where we can get more boats in and out of the Nick's Park.
And I would add to that, when it comes to Nick's Park, very limited amount of space. We also try to put a ramp in there, try to put a dock in there, try to make it a park, and try to, I think, what is it, 16 parking spots in there, there's not much.
I was going to say parking because there's
parking within the park. But, if you're looking for buying property, I don't know how profitable the casino boat business is these days, and that big on the property right there in that same section of the river cuts right up against the park. And expanding Nick's Park could solve our issues too, as far as having more staging area and having, supposedly now you can launch 2 boats at a time at Nick Park, and you know, we all know you can't because that one side of the ramp is pretty much washed out down at the bottom. You don't do it. If we had it to where, you know, if the park were designed where you could stage and launch a number of boats to up, that would be a much more functional boat ramp. Things would move along a lot, and, you know, you'd have a much higher capacity. So just kind of throwing that out.
Well, with the boat improvement fund money, which we could, and I think we've offered in the past to actually work with you on that, so we can have those discussions again. Keith Wiley, be happy to sit down with you, I'm sure, and, you know, have a discussion.
And just to add on to what Councilman Colombo was saying, not only do you have the property that's next door, which is owned by the Porteous family, but they also have the bait shop with about an acre that's off the water, that's directly across the street from Nick's Park, and that's just an open lot. And that's been up for sale, and I think last time it was up for sale for $700,000, if I remember correctly. But that would be ideal to utilize that property for boat parking during the day and then overflow parking for the bars and restaurants at night, and then have Nick's Park itself just as a boat ramp, so you're not parking boats and boat trailers on the water, because that just doesn't make sense the way it's set up now, where you have people both parking actually on the waterfront. It seems to me to move the parking and the boats and boat trailers off the water and use that waterfront just for the ramps themselves. So, you know, I think there's some opportunity there, but like I said, I think we're limited in resources, so we would have to partner with the county to get that done.
Mr. Chairman, if you allow me, it appears that the has redone.
The what?
And I haven't had the benefit of speaking to your county administrator yet, but we do have some preliminary design drawings that were prepared to share with you, and we do have an appraisal on the hotel.
Okay.
And we have had sort of discussions with the hotel owner who's very interested in selling the property. So we're a little bit further along, and we're excited to be able to present some design options to you for a marina where boats will be housed on the property.
Are you ready now, or saying?
I'm sorry.
Are you ready today to present, or?
You're not today.
Not today, okay. All right. Okay.
Pull out that line. More options, and we're tuck those under our arm and But we do have some very interesting things to share with you, and I've given Mr. Carmella an opportunity to do that very soon.
We'd be happy to take a presentation at the county commission when we get all listen to it. No problem. Okay. Very good. Okay. All right, third topic, we'll go to Green Key Resiliency, Stormwater, and other projects. Green Key has been something we've been working with for many years and trying to solve the issue down there. Representative Mariano went and got to the state house, and I think she brought back like $2.3 million. It deals with the northern part of, let's say, the Green Key area. It doesn't deal with the Green Key itself, but the immediate area where we have abutting properties. We've had a mutual constituent come before and speak both boards several times, and I think there's some opportunities there. I've had conversations working with DOT, bringing them in as well to try to work on some that they have. We can actually get some of the stormwater together. You know, I'll go to funding availability. We had some ARPA money that we're going to work with redoing Leisure Lane Van Doren. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Habitat has sold the property to a private person there right now. We're looking to do affordable housing there with them. I understand how they were losing money in the homes that they bought. We tried to get money from the state to get their stormwater stuff done. We looked at using ARPA money that's there, but I think the ARPA money we're going to designate for that area would be better used to go fix the stormwater in the Green Key area. And I think we took that money, Mr. Carbella gave me a price to repave Green Key Road itself, was about $1.5 million. We could use that money, do that whole roadway, put a pathway up there for golf carts, bikes, etc., getting out there and back, use the balance in partnership with the other money that we've got. And I think we can make Green Key much, much better and take a lot of headaches away from all of us.
I think the original proposal would take a lot of headaches away from us, and that's something that was dedicated, or at least committed to the city a couple of years ago.
We talking about to do the infrastructure on Leisure? Yeah, that's where I thought we were going to. This is the first I've heard of this one.
And there seems to be a lot of grant funding available that we would be eligible for the keys.
Well, and, just being up.
Just a suggestion.
No, well, and believe me, you gotta look at what's the best way to get all the money you can, what's the best way to utilize it all. And again, we've got part of the money to do part of the Green Key solution, not all of it. But if you listen to Commissioner of Agriculture Simpson talk about the money he's put for septic and sewer, he's put about 20 million aside that we can actually go and get. There's another, I think it's at 500 million for septic and sewer available. Yeah, there's pots of money out there for septic and sewer. And that project right in there, with other projects the city may have, both cities in the county, as Citrus County, I think at $100 million for septic and sewer conversion. Now, they were focusing before just on the springs. That has opened up now, that's changed. So between the 20 million, that pot of money that's there with the state, there could be some federal money, I think it's better to go after the septic to sewer that way. Because I'll tell you, once we do it, we've still got to look at other grants too, I think, because you don't want to just build it, but you got to raise up all these structures either. I think we got to look at a major infill projects where you can have one big development come through, level it all out, raise it all, so that they're out of the floodplain. And it would be, I think, a much more productive development.
It would still, to have redevelopment like that that comes in through, they still have the infrastructure in there.
Right.
So, so it sounds like you're proposing, rather than the 2 million or so that might be used for infrastructure and leisure on Van Buren and Leisure Lane, you want to use that money rather move it to Green Key area?
Right now we would, because again, we get 2.3 million from the state we've got to use. We still have problems. You guys, from Status Lane to Oldsmar and all along Green Key, we still have a flooding issue that's there as well. So we could fix part of it and then fix the rest of it. We've got a good relationship with DOT, talked with them out there. They're looking at it with us. I think together we can fix that whole area instead of having just part of it. Because let's face it, look at the roads that are in there too. We might get more roads done. When you drive down Oldsmar, it's not pretty. You can drive down the side road of Green Key. We can actually improve that park. I think it's a more efficient way to spend the money, especially when we can go get other money from the state to do just most of what we're going to do with the septic to sewer conversion anyway. And that money's out there. Mr. Starkey.
Well, some of my concerns about putting a lot of money in that area that you're speaking of is that it's very, very low. And so I just wonder if you're throwing good money after bad. And that maybe it's better to move some people, because there are people in this county that are living in places that they shouldn't. I think of Elfers Parkway, for example. We have been working with federal money to just buy them out of there. They're really living in the river swamp. And maybe in today's world, those people in some of those areas along Green Key, not all of them, but some of them are so low, then the streets are so low, I don't know how you keep the water off. It'd be like that, building a dike, like in the Netherlands. So I'd be interested in looking at some elevations and seeing if it's even possible to keep water off some of those roads first.
With drainage, I mean, let's face it.
You can't drain higher.
No, so on the storm situation, when the water comes in, it's coming in. We all know that. And the city's got projects that we put water and sewer in where it goes underwater. And we talked with those folks, and we actually built a below sea level. But coming in, if we can get the water when at least when it comes in afterward, when the storm surge is going to go out, it can get out quicker. It makes it better. As far as green.
I would like to add, I've heard many times that you dredge a canal deeper, you will hold one storm. I'm not making this up.
Yeah, well, I'm saying if you have ditches that are full of dirt that are sitting right there, no, there's canals full of dirt that are sitting there. If you clean those things out, when the storm surge goes back and goes away, the water will flow.
Again, in our city, there are certain canals you are well familiar with.
Very familiar.
They are really essentially an extension of the stormwater system. It's been years and years and years of just sediment from either Highway 19, wherever the water comes from, and at the end of those canals, they're basically almost built up to the outlet.
Right, as a matter of fact, we'll go to that situation, because I think that's a situation as well we can talk about that. you were on before, Mayor Trump and Mayor Malak was there. I came before the board, we talked about what could be done there as far as partnering with money. In the interim of us not partnering with stormwater, there was a $10 million project done with a pond next to a waterway that Pinellas County got. They got $5 million of stormwater money from Swift money to match with the money. They even got restore money to do it. So all that potential is there, and now there's even federal money for canal restoration, which could be something we could discuss. But, so anyway, so back to Green Key. I mean, I'm sure Wanda is probably watching this right now or very concerned about this. As she comes forward to, when they do go underwater, the water can flow out. The improvements we made before, Leisure Lane, Van Doren, from Gulfway, working with the stormwater team, we first had to clean out Gulf Drive. We then cleaned out Leisure Lane. We then had to go further where the county picked up on the backside where the apartments had to clean that ditch out. And then we worked with the apartments across the way. During Tropical Storm Debbie, when everybody was flooded out, when the storm surge had dropped down, that place was dry as a bone. So it could fit, it could work. If you clean out the old sort of thing. And then with the roads in that whole little area, I mean, I say Green Key at 1.5 mil, there may be other opportunities we could do more roads in there as well and help that area out.
I mean, no disrespect, Chairman Mariano, I just want to remind everyone that this for the $2 million was about the fact that you were willing to assign the stewardship of the redevelopment of that neighborhood to the city of Newport Richey.
I was not.
Rather than doing it yourself.
I was not.
Well, the commission.
A commissioner might have been, but the commission, as far as having that discussion goes, wasn't going that way. So there may have been other discussions you might have had, but as far as coming from between myself, I was never looking to do that. I know there was discussions going on with it, but as far as to what was going on, the Habitat was going to be developing the homes. We tried to get them the funding to go forward with it. And again, with septic and sewer money now out there, if I can grab from a separate pot of money that can go right to septic and sewer, that's out there right now, being pushed very hardly, especially with the new Secretary of DEP. They want to see that stuff done. And I think if, as Senator Simpson said, when you get Citrus County that went for $100 million worth of septic and sewer, that there's even more money available to it, and he says we should be looking to go to think bigger. I think we should be looking to do every septic and sewer project in the whole county, both cities, up and down the whole coast, because they want to protect the Gulf. So that's a separate pot of money as opposed to this one, it would be much more isolated.
So are you suggesting then that you would be applying for funds to install septic sewers in Leisure Lane and Dormer area?
Yes. Yeah. And any other projects too. I mean, literally, we need to think big up and down the whole coast, from Sea Pines, Bailey's Bluff, everybody that's on a septic system, we should be looking to go and do it, and I think we've got potential to get the money.
What I heard when we were in Tallahassee was, yes, there's a lot of money that we have not been applying for. It's very frustrating. I don't know about you guys, but in Pasco, we haven't done one septic to sewer conversion yet. My understanding is there's a bill going through, and Ralph may or may not be here, that will actually require us to get residents who are X amount of distance from a water body to get off a septic. And there will be some money with that, and a little bit of time is what they told us. My thought for making a plan for the county is based on what the legislation comes out this year, is that we do an assessment of the worst areas and the areas that legislatively we're going to have to fix first. And that may be group 1, and then group 2, group 3, group 4, and keep going down the line. But we're going to have a plan, an assessment done of where our most vulnerable and important septic to sewer conversions are going to happen in the county.
Thank you, Administrator. Yes, thank you, sir. On the septic to sewer, yes, we've discussed with utilities and infrastructure to begin that work of identifying those areas. And of course, as I've mentioned to you all in the past, our focus on chasing after grants is changing fundamentally within the county, so that'll be on top of that. With regards to the Newport Richey, I will tell you that that deal was previous administrator, and I'm looking at it, but from what I understand, the direction was to bring an interlocal back before the board. Money has been budgeted and set aside in your 2023 budget for Newport Richey, so I'll have to bring that to you for some additional direction on this, but certainly we should have the discussion and go about getting the money to achieve all of our objectives smartly. So we can continue to have that discussion, but I do have that as current board direction, and so I'll discuss that at a future board meeting.
And now that, Habitat doesn't have the property, or all of the property anymore, it's a significant change in my opinion too. We'll get to the next one, the Newport Richey wastewater treatment plant. There's all sorts of money out there for resiliency. We've had many complaints, I think you guys are probably aware that when you guys release water into the canals, I get phone calls about the smell. So I think there's like a little bit of a berm that's up there that kind of slows the water from flowing out. But from the studies we've seen, the organisms are dying out there from doing that. When I saw the documents about getting an extra permit, changing the permit to be able to dump more. I don't want to see that happen. I'm just saying, it was presented to me, I saw it from DEP. I don't want to see that happen. What I would love to do, because we own half of it as well, is work together to fix the situation. If we got to move it, let's go move it, but I want to see it built to a better resiliency so we don't have to even do that anymore.
I really feel like I have a responsibility to respond by telling you we're discharging water that's clean, and the occurrences are far and few between, and we have done no environmental damage by anything that's been discharged.
Okay, I'll let you read the reports that I saw.
The post you saw is inaccurate.
You see the
And
post.
the license from the patch needs to
I'm not talking about the patch.
And
I'm
the
talking about
license
DEP.
renewal was not for an additional discharge, it was a renewal of our existing license.
Okay. We can go over the details at some point.
I'm glad to
Okay.
have.
But I think, again, back to a coastal water plant, if we can move it, if we can raise it, if we can make it safer, or something like we should go after, there's federal money out there for that as well. I think DEP would be working with us as well. Mayor Mahler.
Yeah, I think we need to think about the wastewater treatment plant more from a long-term resiliency point of view than anything else. As the city manager pointed out, the water releases are generally few and very far between. But long-term, as we have sea level rise in this area, it's in a very vulnerable area. And one of the issues, and Mr. Oakley and I were at the Tampa Bay water meeting a week ago, and the discussion was there in doing the so-called SHARP project, which I believe you're familiar with, the South Hillsborough Augmentation Project, where they're taking treated wastewater and injecting it and try to hold back the saltwater intrusion. And that may ultimately be something that we need to look at in West Pasco.
You may have another alternative too that could work well. If we take a look, I think if we could take and put a reclaimed water line, which we don't currently have, and take that reclaimed water from the plant and move it into other parts of the county and use it. Mr. Carbello, if you want to elaborate, that may be the opportunity to actually even a short-term fix as the rest of it goes on.
Yeah, I think there's a number of opportunities out there. We do have an interconnect, I think, to take some of your excess reclaimed water that can't be used for your customers, but if there's an opportunity to expand that system with our storage capacity that we have in Pasco's system, it's quite resilient. That's an opportunity. There may also be opportunities within, for grants to look at collection system rehabilitation, which, as you know, if during wet weather events you get inflow and infiltration, that can certainly cut down on the high amounts of water that would flow out of the plant during those wet weather events. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and we're, as co-owners, we're happy to work with you on that.
The underlying suggestion is that we have a capacity and we don't. We have pipes that break, and that's the reason that we
So maybe you can just...
And we can talk about those details when we get to it.
All right, Florida Department of Transportation crossing, Commissioner Starkey.
Well, I haven't had any updates. I wonder if you had, but I know we're working with DOT to allow for golf carts to go across US 19. We'll actually have our TMA meeting, Transportation Management, what's the? The what? Area, okay. Friday, is that tomorrow? And so I'll be asking for an update. I don't know if any of you guys are coming, but it's going to be an important meeting, and it's actually right here tomorrow morning. I know Representative Yeager had in draft a bill just to fix it for the whole state, not just for us. And personally, I think that's where we need to go. In this day and age, that we're not allowing golf carts to cross a highway when you can walk across it, bike across it, wheelchair across it, scooter across it. I think it's outdated, and I think we have a good chance of getting that through. So, but do you guys have any more updates on us?
I do.
Okay, let's go.
And City of Newport Richey have submitted 2 applications to District 7 Office of ACDOT for consideration to cross at Marine Parkway and at Golf Drive.
Yeah. So we're.
Did you say that right? I couldn't put that on, sorry.
Marine and Golf.
The city has submitted 2 applications for consideration to ACDOT, the District 7 office, and we have asked for permission to use golf carts to cross at both Marine Parkway and at Golf Drive at night.
I will be here tomorrow also.
Good, very good.
Okay. Any more conversation about those?
And just over here, I think we got involved in the same traffic study because that was one of the requirements, is my understanding, to cross. And it's our intention from Port Richey to apply to try and cross at Grand and 19, because that's the logical place to cross within our city. And I spoke to Mr. Brad Yeager as well, and he said he didn't want to go through this process twice. So he's asked that we work in concert with Newport Richey and the county to get everything done at once with DOT. So I know Mr. Dude, I think, has been in contact with Mrs. Mann from Newport Richey to get that accomplished.
So is your application in?
No.
Oh.
I think we're waiting for the study to come back we have to complete a traffic study as well.
Oh, okay.
I see Carl McKisker in the audience. Carl, do you want to comment that at all?
Hello, Carl McKisker with Pasco County MPO. I'm not familiar with the legislation. It's pushed its way through the legislature.
No, it's in draft, but I don't think it made it out of draft. I think it's more will be teed up for next year.
Okay. As to golf cart crossings, we've not been involved with that. But if you are looking at crossings on 19 for pedestrian mid-blocks, DOT is working on 7 different crossings that'll take place up and down at Elizabeth Avenue, San Marco Drive, Tudor Lane, Charlene Lane, Eastwood Lane, Buena Vista Lane, and Lois Avenue. And those will be mid-block pedestrian crossings.
I think are we talking about those tomorrow at the TMA?
That's not on the agenda, but I'm sure DOT will have to talk about that with you.
We need to get Carl involved with the crossings to coordinate the 2 cities in the county together.
Why not?
Would you agree? So maybe you can help with that. While you're here, do you want to talk? Let's talk about the status report on the Cody River Underpass project.
Glad. So status on this, there was an engineering estimate conducted by Florida DOT. They estimated the cost of Cody River Underpass to be approximately $6 million. $3 million of that was attributable to the capacity for golf carts to use that facility. The other $3 million was attributed to pedestrians and cyclists. At this point in time, golf cart access is not eligible using state or federal funds. So while DOT could fund the pedestrian and cyclist half, they're unable to fund the golf cart half of that cost. So we would have to find among our collective group $3 million of that. The other thing I'll advise is that because this is a structure on US 19, which is a state highway, I think it would probably make DOT most comfortable if we were to provide the money and ask them to implement the project, because it is their structure. Lastly, we would want to do a study to look at what we do on either end of that facility and where we take it through the neighborhoods. aligning right-of-way so that we can take it from going under 19 and then connect it up from there.
Now, before we had talked about doing it with that same rejection coming up, and I thought we had pretty much thought about just making it as wide as we possibly can, not associate it with a golf cart, and just build it. Is that possible still?
It would be, of course, obviously, it would be elephant is out of that's the elephant in the room, the secret's out.
There's no secret.
We build it wide.
I just want to build as wide as we can, and maybe legislation changes down the road, we can actually go do it. Maybe Brian Yeager passes something, maybe Senator Rubio passes something, I don't know. But as of just build it as wide as we can.
I would have to interject, I mean, if we were ever successful in allowing golf carts to cross St. Grand Boulevard, people are not going to want to go on this bridge anyway. It's a big loop, it's just two little bridges. They're going to keep going there. That's just a simple.
Right, I think the need changes for our city to allow to cross the Grand in 19, the need to get golf carts under the bridge changes, and I think that our purpose may be, I don't know, we haven't discussed it, but we would probably revisit the idea of just having a regular hike and bike trail that's already fully funded. For a small city, a fully funded project is much better in a lot of ways from a fiscal standpoint. And one of the main reasons for us to try and go with the golf cart project under the underpass there was because there was no other way safely to get golf carts across. If we can cross safely at Grand, I think it takes that need away and it changes probably the city's position to a certain, just changes our position basically.
That would be fine.
Mr. Chairman, that is exactly the issue that we've had at Newport Ritchie at Marine Parkway, where we've talked about putting a pedestrian overpass to make it big enough for the golf carts to go on it. Makes it breathtakingly expensive. And so the grade crossing for the golf carts just makes huge sense, and I am certainly supportive of Port Ritchie giving that grant.
So then, at the next MPO, we can make a motion, just take the Cody River underpass out, be done with it.
Well, I don't want to do that until we get a DOT approved.
Just testing the water.
But is that part of Grand Boulevard? Is that the extent of the Grand, there's more discussion for Grand Boulevard, right?
Well, Grand Boulevard, what do you want to talk about there?
Well, it's really not a boulevard. And it's just a big wide road, but there's nothing boulevard about Grand Boulevard. You guys have some plans to bring a multi-use trail down the part of your Grand Boulevard?
Yeah.
Yeah, when we see those designs, and, Grand Boulevard goes all the way down to 54 to a big old piece of land that Walmart owns, that they're not gonna do anything with, that is ripe for redevelopment. And I just see, we could have a really nice connection between 54 and downtown Newport Ritchie on Grand Boulevard with a multi-use trail of some sort. We could really activate those two areas, so.
I can speak to it. We've got a section of Grand Boulevard between the Cody River Bridge and downtown Newport Ritchie that is basically 4 lanes wide, and there is no reason on Prosperator that road needs to be anywhere close to 4 lanes wide. 2 would do just fine, and so there is a huge amount of opportunity for a multi-use trail to go from close to the downtown all the way down to Marine Parkway, ultimately going out, crossing US 19 at Marine, and then going south and picking up the trails that the county has been envisioning going out, all the way down by the power plant. It's a huge opportunity, and we've got some multi-use trails already actually south of Marine Parkway along Grand. And so if you're thinking about trying to connect, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I think we should have a grand plan. That is not, I didn't mean it that way. It's 2 meetings. So there is a trail all the way down 19, starting at Florimar, And it is very well used. By some people, maybe we wish weren't using it, but it's very well used. And I have put into motion the idea of bringing that multi-use trail up Gulf Highlands Boulevard. And we already have the right-of-way, and then it would eventually connect to the Anklet Coastal Trail. So I love making these connections, and I just want to have a workshop on Grand Boulevard with us and you guys someday.
We've already budgeted money in design phase of the trail south of the Grand Boulevard Bridge, connecting down that way. We're anxiously waiting, there's going to be work on the Grand Boulevard Bridge that's going to be raised and so forth. And so we're trying to coordinate our rest of the design with conjunction with that. So I think it's going to be a great project.
Yeah.
All right.
So, quick question.
Yes.
Next to the NPO. So where were we talking about the crossing would be on 19? If you're connecting from Gulf Island, you said.
Well, you're going to have one at Marine Parkway and Gulf. You already have a crossing at, your trail goes from Marine Parkway across.
Right.
I would hope that as you're redoing the Magnuson project is coming in, they're going to bring that multi-use trail from Florimar up to Marine Parkway.
Right.
And then you're connected. It's already there, all the way down to Gulf Trace Boulevard on US 19.
Okay, we'll just connect them there. 'Cause I know we've had a discussion before about meeting it there to make it.
Yeah, you have to do from Marine Parkway to Florimar.
Okay, very good.
And that's coming in for redevelopments.
All right, joint street maintenance projects for Richard.
That was one of the ones that we asked to put on. And we're using a chunk of our ARPA funds to do roads in Fort Ritchie, which are well overdue and long overdue. We just need to mill and overlay and maintain some of our roads. One of the things that I've asked our city staff to do is reach out, because I know that you guys have contracts that are much bigger than our contract for road maintenance. So I just want to get more bang for a buck when we redo our roads. So I was trying to see if we can piggyback off some of your upcoming road maintenance projects to see if we can just get a better bargain in any of our roads.
I think state procurement laws allow for piggybacking of agreements, so, we can sit down and share those agreements with you and, kind of let you know what's going on there.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that that was one of the things that we had going on, and we could really use bigger contract and better prices to benefit our citizens.
Yeah, of course.
Joint stormwater management plan, Fort Ritchie.
That was another one of mine. I've been working with the folks at the Suncoast Mobile Home Park, and that's been a stormwater project that's led into the county for a long period of time. The county's done a fantastic job in recent days in flood mitigation over there, and there's been some really good short-term fixes. One of the issues that they're running into is Swift Flood is now saying that they don't want them pumping water out of the holding reservoir there across the bridge and out. And I know that there was, I think, about $5.1 million that the county was awarded for stormwater projects in that area. And I wanted to know whether or not we could have a joint venture to move that water. In essence, what's happening is as the county builds up, there's less permeable soil, so that water is running down Ridge Road and dumping into the city. But we need to get it, instead of dumping into the city, all the way out to Salt Springs, which is where our natural runoff goes and our stormwater goes. And what I wanted to see is if we can work with the county to increase the infrastructure in terms of moving more water, because as the county moves more water into the city, it's just going to bottleneck and flood the city. So we need some help, I think, moving the rest of the water out. And then the other thing I wanted just to touch on with that is the filtration of the stormwater, because it is coming out into the Gulf, the Salt Springs, and then we have several canals where we have canals 13 through 17, where the stormwater, if it's not filtered a little bit better, you just have more of the runoff that goes and fills in those canals there. So we we wanted to know if there's any options or any way to work with the county on some of those issues.
Sure, Commissioner Oakley?
Yeah, we've been working on the outfall of that, and then we got voted down at Swift Mud on their governing board, voted us down on the outfall. They didn't accept our position on that. It's been a while back, but I think we can go back to it and look at it and see if we can't work together.
As far as increasing outfall from their perspective?
Well, they just didn't, they wouldn't agree for us to do any outfall.
I mean, DEP, basically, their stance has always been on, we don't want any waters that are not basically pure flowing into that body waters. So anything that brings more water, stormwater runoff, or even, overflow from a treatment facility that's still clean, they don't take care of that.
Well, the state law now tells them they gotta clean that up and have it changed, I think, within the next 10 years.
It's kind of going back to
Or reclaim water going into.
If you come up with a project for retention, they're more inclined to fund that because it's something the water naturally.
We'll address that, well, I'll reach from other folks and reach out to them and talk to them about that issue and see where we can go, and also, since I'm the past chair, with some of the folks who were there when I was chairman, and I have those connections and work very well with them.
Glad that you were Commissioner Chairman Mayor. As I recall, that the mobile home park, I believe you were there under the pipe. You got water into that retention area of the mobile home park, and that pipe just couldn't handle like a 7-inch an hour rain. Now, y'all did a lot with Mag Valley and keeping the waters east come down and half. Yeah. That's great. But again, I think the weak link in the chain, so to speak, as I recall, was north of the road.
Well, we'll study that and go through that to be sure.
I'll give you two thoughts. First of all, the northern outfall, we went through and cleaned all that out, through Houston Springer, et cetera. We're going to be cleaning, taking out that whole area before the bridge, where the water flows right now, with the 3 pipes. We're going to clean that whole area out. It's going to be a big treatment before it releases out. The southern outfall is the one that I think has got your greatest potential. I think it work with DOT, et cetera. All the sediments and water flows where it flows. If it flows from Magnolia Valley up, it goes across, it goes across. It's not just us, it's just where the water's going to go. And there might be an audience member in there, one of the guys who owns the property, Matthew Todd, that owns one of the canals running right through the midst of his property, running through. That outfall going across, when you get on Old Bay Road, Old Post Road, to the west side, there's that big pond that's there that collects water. I gotta assume it's loaded with silt, much like the Pinellas Park, Pinellas Park project, right? So the Pinellas County just went.
Actually, we have 2 pipes that
I think so, yeah. So all that water goes in there, goes into that pond before it starts releasing out. And it releases all the way from, to the north, all the way up, almost to where Bay Road is coming across this canal, all the way down to,
Yes, sir. I think it would be best if I had my Public Works Director perhaps go address you and your staff and your team and kind of show you what the project is about. We can address concerns through that. And, Swift Mud always looks at benefit cost as we go through things. So let's look at it through that lens. But we certainly can go and explain to you everything that's going on with all of our stormwater projects because we do look at them regionally. We want to make sure there's no downstream negative impacts.
Obviously, in that area, you've got county water, you've got city water, you've got Highway 19, you've got the state water. Sure. Going into that one area you're talking about.
Will you tell me to do the presentation right now?
No, we're not prepared to do that, but on this specific project.
Then let me continue my conversation.
Yes, sir.
Well, I didn't know. I think they got what's going on, let's hear it. But anyway, so I think the potential between the federal monies out there for canal restoration, that you could actually take that pond right there, we can go approach Swift Mud to go get joint funding, just use the exact same example we've done with Pinellas. They got a matching funds of money, and they've been changing what they're going to do between water source, et cetera. But it's I think the approach we can go after. You then go get the federal money that's out there kicking right now that will go directly to the counties and the cities. We can go work to go get that. And then you can take those 5 canals, where all your homeowners now are soaked with mud, time after time, and even on the storm event, it takes so much time for the water to get out. And the water quality is not good either, because all those nutrients that have died over the years and set in there, it's all not good for the environment either. We could go clean all 5 of those out, and Mayor Tremblay knows all about this. We've talked about this before. If you work together, we can work those as a stormwater project with DOT as well, improve every one of those canals and every bit of water quality run into the bayou.
But I think the key to what we're talking about too is the filtration, because I think that there's this lack of filtration, and that's what was causing all those canals to fill up with debris and runoff from 19. So I think that part of the project, and one of the things that we're going into moving forward, is better filtration, because I think even if you did a maintenance dredge, if you don't filter that water, it's just going to fill back up.
And exactly, let me just go a little further, exactly to my point.
Right.
So it's not just doing the canals, it's doing the pond beside it. Just like we're going to treat the water at Warren and Boyce coming through, we're taking the water that runs up from the apartments down to Springer, it's now going to hit a big pond. It's going to sit in that pond, the sediments will stay there, then it can release out.
This pond is there now.
Yes.
It's full of sediment.
Exactly.
At one time, it was a heck of a lot deeper. It's done its job. It's a sediment pond. Now it's full of sediment. That means
When I went down to see you with Tropical Storm when I came in, and we were out there, all of a sudden we were going to go clean that out, because we knew it was going to be a storm surge storm. It wasn't going to be a rainfall storm. And we went out there, we took 8 truckloads of dirt out of both sides.
And both sides is a good point.
Mhm.
Yeah, people tend to forget on the east side, which is where it's coming out of that pond, coming into those pipes. Before that was literally halfway up.
Right.
I mean, you basically were losing half the line of those pipes on either side, because so much sediment had built up over the years. You had a pipe this big, and you had this little moon-shaped piece in the top. That's all the water that was going through. That was all full.
We might be able to get DOT to fund cleaning every bit of that, not US 19 stormwater coming through. We can get a lot of help from that. They've got their own stormwater crew that actually deals with that stuff. So if you want to really fix that, we can make it work.
I'll take any money.
It's out there.
And we talked, I think, at our last council meeting, and there was a consensus to have our grant writer looking for things to improve water quality, and including some of those issues. So we're out searching for grants and other funding as well, but if you have additional resources that we may, or places we can apply, just let us know, because we're searching right now.
Well, as I said, it's going to take work, and I think you can work with DOT, you can work with SwiftMud, money's out there, and again, the federal program that I saw at NACO, it lists exactly those features. And again, seeing Pinellas had done it, I mean, it's out there. You just got to go after it. Just like I mentioned 8 years ago when I talked to you first. All right, so that, we already talked about the Cody River underpass. We're going to go to recreational opportunities. West Pasco Little League Baseball Field enhancements. Commissioner Bradford was going to talk about that, but we've got someone, Kathy.
I got Christina right here.
All right, Christina, come on forward.
Hi, Christina Cordone, Assistant Director of Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resources. I'm just going to quickly go over the improvements we've done to the Pine Hill Park. So in summer of 2022, this past summer, we did a field renovation in fields 1, 3, and 4 at the park. The renovations consisted of regrading, new infield dirts, new turf, and a warning track around each field. We have plans in this upcoming summer of 2023 that include all of the current buildings at the park, and dugouts will be demoed. New concession buildings with a restroom, a meeting room, storage, and an outside grill. New dugouts, new vinyl coat fencing to replace all the existing fencing at the park. New bullpens and batting cages, bleachers with shade covering, a new parking lot along with an additional parking area that will be created, retrofitting LED field lights, additional sidewalks and hardscapes, and a new maintenance building for the team out there. So that's all planned to take place starting this summer.
All right, boat ramp here at Anklet River Park.
So at Anklet River Park, this project is part of our redesign of the entire park. Right now, our focus is on access for egress and ingress access to the park. There are improvements to the boat ramp planned, but right now, due to potential permitting delays, we want to focus on the redesign of the park as is, kind of as phase one, and then the boat ramp will be phase two of the project.
Okay, Nick's boat ramp, we've talked about that already. Like I said, there is boat improvement money. We can kind of like maybe have that conversation, what we can do to improve it.
Yes, we took some notes, including when we were talking about the property that was just purchased by the county. So we took all those comments to make sure that we take all that into consideration.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And future coast-to-coast connector, Suncoast Trails Trail.
Same thing,
That was submitted by the city and we've already received a response.
Okay, all right. Expansion of scallop season.
I think we got that answered.
We did. We're not done yet, no. Come on now. All right, sorry, come on now. All right, so here's what's going on right now. I was just up in, for Tourism Day up in Tallahassee. I met with all our representatives. One of them I text, but strong conversations. The data that I saw from 2012 to 2019 showed that Pasco County actually outperforms Fernando County in the counts that are shown with what's out there in the water. Citrus is ahead of us. The meeting I had just this morning, 8 o'clock, with Fish and Wildlife's Deputy Director, was to go over that data. In going over that data, they relayed to me that they're no longer using that data. So I says, well, why wouldn't you use it? Well, we don't know if we can count on that data. So the same data that we've been penalized for 20 some odd years about not being able to scallop is now being thrown away. They've got new data that they're using. This new data that's out there, they're taking the square footage of seagrass that's out there. I didn't get the specifics about what kind of seagrass, because Hallie Dooley's out there in the lowlands as well as the deep stuff with Washia across the board. They didn't give me any details, but they're saying because of the square footage of seagrass we're going, they want to keep us at our 10-day period. I said, tell me this, where is the scientific basis upon what's in the water that used to matter, doesn't seem to matter anymore? Kind of get crickets. I said, I don't know how you penalize us for 20 years on some data that's out there, and the new data that's out there, most current that we can see, shows that we're compatible to Hernando. And now you've got this new experimental data that's got nothing to do with what's in the water, just on your own square footages. I said, I don't see how you're going to do it. So they're going to take a look at it. They're going to go further. I then went to the governor's office, talked with a representative there, gave him the story of what just happened. And I will tell you, I think Fish and Wildlife could change our minds in a minute. Okay? I'm going to encourage all of you to reach out to our state legislators and the governor and tell them how you think we're getting treated. And if you want, I'd be happy to share that data that I've got, everything I looked at. I'll even show you a letter I'm getting ready to send that will give all the details about all the reasons why. I think we should go to a full 60-day scallop season. And if we need to, let's do a 5-year study on it. We'll see the results in 5 years, but give us 5 years of a 60-day window, just like the rest, and with that data, we'll then let that Fish and Wildlife, after the 5 years, to decide where we should go from there. So we're not done with it yet. If you want to work with me, I think we can still get that change.
So they don't change Hernando to 10 days then.
Well, it would be tough for them to try to imagine that happening. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're better off going with the 5 year.
You don't want to lengthen this time for the scalloping and have it kill the seed that's going to produce scallops, because in Homosassa in that area, and also even in Crystal River and all, their number as far as taking scallops are way down. But they do a much broader picture of that. We could just get another weekend involved in our scallop season, I think would be great. But I've been told that data didn't support it. So.
Well, again, the new data that they're using, and from what I understand, they don't have current data, but the same data they have been using for 20 years, is also why we couldn't do it. They don't have the current data on that. But as far as the harvest, from what we've heard and what they've heard, the scallops are actually getting out are actually larger than what's up the coast as well. So yeah, that's why I think let's do a 5-year study. But there's no reason, even with the
Starkey, since it started, our numbers have gotten higher. And Hillsborough's, Hernando's been pretty constant, but our numbers are actually higher than theirs. So why would we be treated worse than Hernando County? That's the bottom line. With the same, and our numbers are actually better for the Scholar production. So I think just treat me the same. So, any other comments? Because it does take care of the agenda. All right. Well, like I said, thank you all for coming out. I think the discussions are good. Sometimes things are going on which we don't know about. We're bringing folks in to talk together. So thank you all very much.